So we're going to get started here today. We're starting something a little bit different. I was talking to Hank a little while ago. And those of you who don't know Hank, I'm going to do a little bit of an intro to him. As I've known Hank for quite a few years. We met each other when we were with a different coaching organization. He was one of the top coaches in a course Bold. It was amazing. Traveling all over the place, and that's how I met him. Is he came to Canada, and I was trying to build Canada in the one-on-one coaching, and he was going in that amazing Bold coaching and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, the two of us are very powerful coaches, kind of different spectrums of coaching. However, it works really well together, and we spent quite a bit of time just kind of chasing trains and going back and forth, and really talking about helping him build that, and he helped me build my side. And I kind of just was talking to Hank a couple weeks ago and said, you know what, everybody has a lot of questions for coaches, and I'd like you guys as our clients to really experience a different kind of outlook and see the parallels and really just get to experience. So I'm more about collaborating. Everybody knows that. I'm never concerned about competition. I'm about collaborating. So Hank's built his own coaching company as well, and it's absolutely phenomenal. And I'd like you to just talk to everybody and give it a little bit of an intro about what you do and who your clients are. So, Hank, take it away before we get into all these questions.
Awesome. Well, it was fun meeting, and if I remember right, you actually liked me because I actually picked up the phone and started prospecting people. So,
like the only coach that ever did that, by the way. So, yes.
And so I started January 1st in 2016, and I had a pretty hardcore non-compete that I was up against. So I started from scratch, and it really started 10 years ago when my son had open heart surgery, and at the time, I don't know, I had 25 or 30 listings. And what I realized was when I stopped showing up, I stopped getting paid. And I said, this is my fault. This will never happen to me again. And so 10 years ago, I went on this journey to not have to trade dollars for hours. And I'm there now. So where we're at is I built my life so that I can help people without having limitations to borders or systems. And how I arrived here was I was going around the country, and on my journey, I tried building a team. By that red book, I think a lot of people have read it, and I couldn't figure it out. It made sense, yet when I started implementing it, I wasn't making any money. And more I got diving into other people's P&Ls, most people weren't making money. It was all about ego and so I just started to find a way that would work better for the average agent. And Marianne, you typically don't coach the average agent. So it's not that I'm against teams. I just think that too many people think that they're team material. And so I kind of offer the solution of, hey, let's do 36 transactions a year, raise our standards, raise our quality, and get down to it's about 20 hours a week, and then let's go invest that extra money and energy and time into real businesses that we can sell. So that's kind of been my approach, is getting stability to a consistent real estate income and then exploring other opportunities. Because I also believe at some point our real estate industry is going to change. And so that's part of the reason going in the direction that I am is I think at some point us getting 6% won't be as prevalent as it is today.
Very interesting. I like that. And so you guys are going to hear that quite a bit on this call too. Hank and I, it's a very good compliment, just so you know. Very different perspectives, but the same in a different kind of route. So it's just awesome, and I love hearing this. So we're gonna talk about the questions that came in. We had 10 top questions, and my favorite is the last question, believe it or not. So anyway, but we are going to get into that. So first question, I'm going to warm Hank up with a bit, and Hank's going to answer. I'm going to answer. We're just going to have a really good dialogue about this. So Hank, you mentioned the why coaching, not continue selling real estate. Now, you kind of touched on it a little bit on your answer right now, but get specific. I mean, you were a successful realtor, successful team owner. Did you lose the passion to build it, or did you just kind of real estate, coaching took over? What happened here? Why not?
Well,
you can make so much more money.
Yeah, it happened a little bit. It happened a little bit by accident. See, once I figured something out, I kept climbing the ladder. So I started out as a buyer's agent, then went to on my own, and then I went to build a team. And then when my son had open heart surgery, that's when I was introduced to KW in the Red Book. So I went over to be a team leader and then also run my team. And what I thought was true didn't happen to work out the way. So after 2 years running a market center, I was going to jump back into sales, and then the opportunity came to go meet with Diana and 12 other people to become a Bold coach, and it just seemed like a great opportunity. I love helping people and being on stage and doing that, and then I did that for 3 years, and it just kind of laid out that way. I started in real estate when I was 19, buying my first rental property, and I had 42 rental properties by the age of 22.
Wow, that's awesome.
And then I had a commercial loan call due on me. So, I mean, I've been in real estate my whole life. I just like the coaching model because I thought that there was a better way. And I actually think coaching is a great alternative to having a team because it's much easier from my perspective to keep things equitable for the longer run.
Mm-hmm. I love what Hank just said, by the way, guys, is that because we get a lot of people who are like, I want to be a coach, I want to be a coach. Here's the thing is like, if you look at the pattern that Hank brought into the equation, which is the same kind of background patterns that I see with some of the top coaches, is the best coaches have actually, they've gone through the process. It's not that they can't build a team and run their own team. It's legitimately like there's just no point. Like the coaching industry pulled them in. And believe it or not, guys, it's harder. This is why a lot of people are like, I don't know about Hank, but I get a lot of people who come to us and they're like, I want to be a coach. And I'm like, okay, if you can't build a real estate team, it's going to be very hard for you to build a coaching team because it's no different. It's a transferable skill, except coaching is a part of your brain that you have to absolutely love and be passionate about. Hank, it definitely is. So am I. Most of the coaches are. But the reality is it takes a very different individual. If you can't build that real estate team, I think it's a transferable skill to say, okay, coaching, because I'll be honest with you, managing coaches, managing coaching clients, it's production based. How is that it's not that far of a stretch to a real estate team. It's a different skill, but it's not far. Mm-hmm.
The other thing that I find is most real estate agents that have been successful, when you start out as a coach, you've got a very rigid schedule. I've tracked every single hour that I've worked since January 1st, 2016, and I'm every hour on the hour. And a lot of agents don't want to be that confined. However, I think I'm like you, is when I work, and then when I don't, I don't. And so there's pluses and minuses, yet people get romantic about it, and it's a lot of freaking work.
I love that word that you just used. They get romantic about it. It's like they really do get romantic about it. It's like I sit back and I go, I said to somebody the other day, I took Monday off, and that's the first day off I've had in literally 9 weeks, and that's not normal for me. I believe in time off. But I was sitting there, I was going, oh my God, I've been working 18-hour days for 9 weeks, and I'm like, do you know how hard it is to carry clients? Like every day that you're coaching them, you're not just like you're hearing all the challenges, but you care. Like you're so caring about the people that we coach that it's like you don't want to see them go through this. So every day you're working and working. You have to pivot. You can't just guess. These are people who are writing a check for you to coach them to get to the next level, and you're a big part of their life. So it's a whole different. There's nothing romantic, is what I want to say. There is nothing romantic. It is I would say it's 10 times harder to run a coaching business than it is to run a real estate team. It's very, very difficult because you are really, you're hired to get people where they need to get to. And then you have to work through each individual's roadblocks, and it's never the same for any client. There's always a difference, which is where the romance disappears. It goes, unfortunately, it doesn't stick around. All right, so next question that we got asked, guys, really great question. Hank, what advice would you give the agent who just started out a month before COVID? Okay, brand new agent, just started out, and they're on their own, they're single, and they're really struggling to find business. And by the way, huge percentage of that, whether they're on a team, off a team, doesn't matter, but let's just say an agent who started out a month before COVID. What advice would you share?
So my start in real estate wasn't much different. I was in Michigan in 2007. And if you know anything about the history of Michigan in 2007, I mean, we were the auto industry, and I mean, it was tough. And so I'm going to say this: DTFW, do the frickin' work, show up. Like, there's no easy answer. Right now, what you've got to do is you've got to work your butt off and go find the deals. So regardless if it's COVID or not, people are motivated. This has gotten people off the fence. So I'd ask, well, let's look at your activities for the last 30 days and what I bet on you. And most people who are asking that question haven't been doing the activities, so it's tough to coach them because they've just kind of been frozen. If you've been doing the activities, then we can look at evidence and say, okay, we need to tweak here. But my first question is, does your math even give you a chance to succeed?
Oh, that's a huge, huge, huge. So if they're looking at building, how does their math change now that it's COVID? How would the math change pre or during? How does that change? Because I don't think the math stays the same.
Well, and we got to look at skill set to it. So if you're a
Yep.
month in, if I was a month in knowing what I know now, I would go find the top agent that's in the trenches and is busier than all get out, and I would go catch their scraps. I would be there. I would do anything that they needed me to do. I mean, if that meant I needed to go get them toilet paper, I would be right there because top agents will have enough business that falls through the cracks around them, and I would basically just go be their gopher and do everything that I needed to do to suck up whatever I could learn from them and then catch their scraps, because you don't have a whole lot of runway. Or unless you're in the top 1%, you might want to go back to the career that you were in before, because if you don't have the skill set and you don't know your head from the hole in the ground, you might get gobbled up.
It's possible, yeah, and that's a great advice, because a lot, and I really agree with Hank on that one. If you can find that top producer in your market area, and I think the theme that I kind of look at, because when I hear things like that, which was, by the way, a lot of people sent in that question, and they were just like, these are the most popular questions we got this week, and that agent who, gosh, help them, they just started out. But here's kind of how I look at it too, and I don't disagree with anything Hank said. I totally agree with that. Go after that. Find all those agents that are really they're in it. They want to do stuff. They want to be in the business. And you know what? Go after them, get their scraps. Also remember, though, that if your market has dropped down 60%, you need to dial your shit in. Meaning, if it's dropped 60%, your lead generation activities are not 60% less. You've got to dial that shit up. So if you're not putting in, and remember one thing is that put in the work, like he said. Because if you're not doing a massive amount of lead generation every single day, you're going to have to work your butt off. So it's time to go out of the box and be like, reach out to your friends, reach out to your family, get out of your comfort zone. If you have to cold call 8 hours a day, buck it up. This is the time where you've got to really fight for your business. And it's about really going that next level, having the scripts, planning your lead generation schedule. It's not the time to do research. That's my best advice. Don't sit around.
Right.
Yeah. Don't be like, I'm going to watch 85 podcasts, or I'm going to work on my CRM for the next 18 days. No, lead generate. There's always people that want to buy and sell. And if you ever want a gut check, unless your real estate board shows 0000, which, by the way, happened in Quebec, but unless your board actually shows 0000, then I have to be honest with you, your number one thing you have to do is lead generate. This is survival of the most aggressive lead generators will end up on top. You know what I mean? So they'll end up right on top. So the more aggressive you are with your lead generation at this time, hour-wise, put it all in. Because I think, going back to what Hank was saying, when I first started in real estate, my first year I was a transplant and I did 80 home transactions. And so that means I didn't have any family, friends, or anything in my city. And I grinded, and I did a breakdown for a team yesterday. There's 160 hours in a week. There is no reason we can't be putting a huge portion on that. So it was really, really interesting. Next question.
Marianne, real quick, I just want to drop one tip.
Please, let's do it.
So I own a VRBO, a vacation rental, and I know that when all this hit, I've had a ton of cancellations, and there's a lot of people like myself that would be willing to sell now. So I think that's a great pool to go after, because like me, I have the equity to sell. I'm motivated. I'm sophisticated, and I'd go hustle after those out-of-town owners.
100%. I mean, we went really hard after, Airbnbs. We went so hard after Airbnbs in our coaching that they changed their format, and now they've blocked us. So I was like, I was like, what's going on here? I'm like, and I said, and we started getting, they caught on to us. I'm like, I guess I should have publicized it. But Hank's 100% right. You got to look for the opportunities also. They're all over the news. The opportunities exist. Like I was saying to somebody, just 2 days ago, if you're seeing, like, restaurants are getting hit hard, and a lot of these restaurants that have been around for 30 plus years, some of the owners are deciding, you know what, I think it's time for me to retire. It's not doom and gloom. They're sad about it because they didn't have a proper retirement, but they may have been, anybody who was about 3 years away from retiring, they're probably making the decision now to shut their doors. It's probably what's happening. They're like, you know what? Do I really want to, operate my restaurant at 50%? No. So the truth is that you need to reach out to those business owners. Why? Because if they're doing early retirement, that means that they're going to liquidate. Okay, they're going to look at moving finances, investment properties, reinvesting. There's many different things that they're going to be looking to do. Plus, they have a whole inventory of people, staff, everything that that you can actually jump in and be like, hey, what can we do to help? And it's not about calling them and being an ambulance chaser. It's about actually just recognizing that, reciprocity is one of the coolest things you can do. If the restaurant's going out of business and it's been in your city for 30 years, pick up a phone. Just to have a conversation, tell that business owner, hey, thank you so much. I really appreciate everything you've done for our community, for our city, everything. I'm a local real estate agent, and I wanted to reach out and just say, how can I help? What can I do at this time? Do you need me to talk to your staff about, options and, mortgage deferrals or anything like that? Do you need any help with anything? Do you need to liquidate anything? How can I help? Some of these people, one of the guys in my city, he's 30 years in business in a restaurant. He shut his doors down. He has a commercial building to sell. It's a hell of a piece of real estate. So he's not in doom and gloom mode. So when I picked up the phone and called him and found out he owned the freaking building, I almost had a heart attack. He's like, yeah, I think I'm going to sell it now. It's the right time. And so he says, I'd love to start that conversation. I'm like, oh, my God, that's amazing. This is a multi-million-dollar piece of property, and all I did is call and just say, hey, is there anything I can do to help? And so it can go a really freaking long way. Next question we asked, this was a really cool one. A lot of people were like, I was going to open my own team in 2020. I was on track to do it in the first quarter. So here's the thing. Is this the right time to build a team? Given the fact that listing inventory is at such an all-time low right now, should we be looking at building a team, or should we just stay the single agent? Great question for you, Hank.
Well, obviously, I'm giving a broad answer here because to get prescription without digging more into particulars. But my general statement is, why are you building a team? Well, most people are doing it to move away from pain to solve a problem. I would say 99% of the time, the absolute worst freaking thing you can do right now is build a team, unless you're in the top 1% of the 1%. And that's my stance, because the reality is you want to get lean right now and work, so that's my blanket answer.
Good. And so
now,
remember, keep going. I want to hear more.
A point there.
Add as many as you want.
Here's my challenge was, I don't like to put a ceiling on people, and I found when I was building a team, I was helping people outgrow me, and then they would move on, And so that was one of my challenges, was getting an ROI on my investment on the people that I invested in, because I don't want to hold anybody back. And I know the model that I'm in, and I don't want to contaminate the call. Yet I think that's the best team model out there, because you get paid for helping people outgrow you.
Yeah, and he's referring to his company's model, and that's true. In my whole thing, and again, guys, this is why I wanted Hank on here. Is it's two different opinions, so it's things to consider when you look at marketing. You always test things. You go black and white, test. A/B marketing. So it's no different. I don't think this is a terrible time to build a team. I think this is the best time. Would I be building a team during this if I didn't have one before? That would really, really be my kind of like, I'd scratch my head and I'd go, I'm the same. It's like, it depends on the individual. My thought process on this is very simple. You can find the best talent right now. If I was looking for the best team talent, I would be looking at who I currently have in my team, and I'd go, you know what? And that's kind of leading into the second question. Part of this question is, if you see that you have a team that's not producing, and we'll get into that in a second. But I truly believe that if I was looking for the best talent, I would go through MLS. or your board, whatever system you have, Matrix, whatever, and I would do a search, and I would pull up who are the agents over the last 9 weeks that had listings that they were putting on the board, sales that they were posting, all across my city. I'd be like, who are, because it's not a lot. It's going to be the lowest number in history that we've ever seen, because most of the market was, pretty shut down. It was sparse. So I'd be looking and seeing who are the active agents, because those are the agents that I would be like, think about it. If we're going to go through something like this again, and I want a team of Clydesdales, the Clydesdales were working the last 9 weeks. That's my process. So I would eliminate 95% of interviews, and I would not, if somebody came to me and I was building a team, and they said, hey, I'm really interested, I'd be like, my first and only interview question of 2020 is, let me hear what you've done over the last 9 weeks. And if they haven't done sweet F all, I'm not interested, because that's a good indicator of the wrong person I want on my team. So I think this is a great team to build. If you had the intention of building, you have a good foundation, you've got the right systems to carry, you've got the onboarding, but I sure as hell would not be building a team right now if I don't have anything in place that was preparing me to build it. I think it's a little too important to be generating revenue right now as opposed to anything else. So great time to find talent. Next question that we were asked, okay? So here is a big one. A big one is this. If you own a team, and we're seeing this across the board, whether you have one person or 20 people on your team, what do you do, and what's your best advice if somebody comes to you as a coach and says, hey, I got my team, and I got a bunch of agents on my team, and they've literally done nothing. Everybody's working virtually, and I can't get them to lead generate. I know they're giving me excuses. They seem to be sitting on their ass, and what do I do? And they've tried everything, by the way. They've tried Zoom calls, and this is a lot of people experiencing this. Zoom calls, accountability, and the team members just aren't doing anything. So what would you do?
Well, I'm assuming that you have standards and principles in place. So if you have standards and principles in place, chances are they've been educated, warned, and fired.
Yeah.
What am I missing?
No, that's exactly it. So your advice is that you got to fire them. So you wouldn't really say, okay, you know what, it's COVID or anything like that. At this point, are you kind of like, okay, the excuses have to stop?
Well, I'm assuming that we've done all that if we've gotten to this point. And at the end of the day, it's not you doing it. The people are making the choice not to do the standards and the principles of what the agreements were. And so really, I think what people do is they make too many decisions based off of feelings. And yeah, I get that there's extenuating circumstances right now. And at the end of the day, there's still sales happening. So my opinion, I like the book Lean Startup. So I usually have 3 numbers. Red light is, hey, we didn't even come close. We're stopping right now. Yellow light is, hey, we did okay, but we got, another 6 months probation. And green light is we're all in. And I mean, I let the numbers dictate my decisions and my standards and principles. So if they're not doing anything, I don't even understand why this is a question.
I like that because it's fear-based. That's where my thought process comes in. And Hank and I are just dialoguing around this, guys. So it doesn't mean, you got to understand how Hank and I are. We're very much like black and white people in these kind of areas. We do share similar opinions. To me, it's you got to watch out for a couple things. If you're changing the game too many times, i.e., I truly believe as Hank loves his books, I love my books. The 5 dysfunctions of a team is what I look at, and I look at that and I go, okay, take a look at what's happening. Make sure that you're not the reason. And no, we've covered that, but make sure you're not changing it all the time. Set with the goal and be like, okay, guys, what can you do? Remember that we don't set the goal for them. What are they willing to do over the next 7 days, and do your milestones. Make sure it's in writing. Make sure it's an agreement. Make sure you didn't enforce the goal on them. A lot of the times what I'm hearing in teams right now is that the team owners or the team leaders are pushing the goal on their people. And it's like, wait a second, this is that's not how goals work. If
they're using force versus power. I mean,
exactly.
And that just doesn't work.
It never works, right? Why doesn't it work, Hank? Why does that not work?
Well, think about if we put our hands up against each other and I go to push your hands, what are you going to do? You're going to push back. Yet if I move it to the right or to the left, most likely you're going to follow me. And you said the word fear earlier. Most leadership is fear-based, where
Yep.
They say, hey, you've got to do this, and it's positional power versus power-based, where like I don't have contracts with anyone. Everybody runs with me, kind of based off the book, Be a Little Bit More Pirate. They run with me
I love
because
that book.
they choose to, and we run parallel, and we run together. We're a force to be reckoned with. Yet we can easily be on our own, where we can be lean and agile.
100%, 100%. And I think that's the thing you have to remember too, guys, also is that one of the things that Hank was saying, and I do agree with this tremendously, is that if you're looking, okay, and this is kind of where I go as well, if you're looking and you're running and you're running and running and you're doing really great things, you know what, if I use it as this, if I run 8 miles per hour and I have team members that are going 16 miles per hour because they're deciding to go 16 miles per hour, I can't get to, I got to slow down. And that is one thing. If you guys heard the call we did with Peggy Hill a couple weeks ago, if you're the rainmaker, you don't have time to slow down. That's not negotiable. It's your job to make it rain. And if you have people who are going 16 miles per hour and you're going 18 miles per hour, it's not your job to slow down. It's their job to catch up. If they're not willing to catch up, you can't compromise your vision and your goals for that to happen.
So Marianne, the way I look at it is, as leaders, is we're pulling the chain. All we're asking to do is hang on. But if you let go, I can't stop the chain. There's enough length of it where if you let go, you can grab back on. Yet once that chain goes past you, we're done, because I can't push a chain. I can only pull it. And it's your responsibility to hang on and keep up.
Truly is. And it's also, somebody said to me once, a really great leader said to me once, he said, hey, he goes, you know what, any production problems that you have in a team, despite the market, it comes down to one thing. It can be solved by having better talent. That's it. He's like, assuming what Hank said before, which is, it's not a leadership issue. If it's not a leadership issue, meaning, the expectations and we're not fear-based leadering and all that kind of crazy stuff, which, by the way, happens all the time. But yourself, people know if you're a fear-based leader. So if you're not a fear-based leader and you're not afraid, but you got to drop being afraid of letting people go. Okay, you got to, because here's the other thing.
You don't let them go. They let themselves go by the choices that they made if you have the right standards and principles. So, I mean, yeah.
And your team is watching. That's the funny part is that if you have a big enough team, it's like a little bit of a disease on there. If one person isn't pulling the weight or isn't accomplishing the goals, and you set the standards and you've done a great job, and they literally aren't, your whole team is watching, and they're not stupid. Nobody's stupid. You don't hire stupid people. You guys all hire really smart people. So just think about it. Your team is watching. If they know somebody's not hitting the targets or the goals or whatever the case is on your team, then guess what? They know that they can get away with it too. It's monkey see, monkey do. Why in the world? Okay, so there's one team that I coach that is just like, they've got these numbers and everybody's like, how do they do it? How do they do it? Well, it's very easy. The CEO invests in coaching for everybody on the team. Okay, so everybody on the team, including the CEO, has coaching. So everybody's on the same page. The calls are consistent. Everybody has the same goals. And just this week, the only weak link in the entire organization was let go. So the lowest person on the totem pole basically was let go because that person just wasn't keeping up. So it's not a hard thing. It sucks because we are humans. But listen, truth is that you got to, like Hank said at the beginning, there's two parts of the brain. There's the emotional and there's the logical side of the brain. If you're too much on the logical, you're likely a fear-based. I see that a lot. And if you're too much on the emotional, then you're going to really struggle with letting people go because you're more consumed about, hurting people's feelings or your ego or other things like that. So it's an interesting toss-up. So very, very interesting. Next question was really interesting. We've heard a lot of dialogue around this. A lot of people are looking around, and this is where the question really comes from. So I don't want anybody to think differently about this, but we're hearing a ton of people say that they're not happy with what they're seeing on an office level throughout the last 9 weeks, and they're like, I'm going to switch brokerages. I'm going to go. I'm curious, and a lot of people asked our opinions on this. Do we think it's a good or bad time to switch companies during this time without naming any companies and anything like that? Do you think it's a good time to switch a company?
Again, it's a tough question to ask because I think you need perspective on where they're coming from. Yet I just ask, what's causing you to leave? And is it really solving the problem, or are you just trading the grass is greener on the other side? So I think if there's a specific reason and a specific opportunity, then yeah, it's worth considering. However, I think most people right now, they're looking at switching companies because they're running from something. And that's just my 2 cents, is usually switching companies doesn't solve the problem. You need to really figure out why you're doing it. And if you're just doing it on splits, you can't, some people try to outmath a problem. And I could tell you, if you're worried about splits or a dollar here or a dollar there, you're stepping over a dollar to pick up a dime. If you focus more on what your activities are and whatever your brokerage is doing, if you're that dependent on your brokerage doing something or not doing something, you're probably fucked to begin with.
Yep. 100%.
Oh, sorry, am I supposed to drop F-bombs on here?
I do it all the time. It's
okay.
My show. It's my show. You can drop the fuck bomb as much as you want. Yeah.
Well, being a guest, I just wanted to honor your.
You know me. Oh my God, it'd be weird if I didn't swear at least a few times on every call. It would be seriously weird. It's part of my contract.
So, what do you think about that?
I think, that's an interesting question. So here's my thing. I don't think during COVID it's the right time. Okay, the only reason why, I think Barbara actually was on a call a few weeks ago, and she was actually really cool. She had a good piece of advice. She said, I always think that you're like everything, you should have a backup company. You always should, which means you should be exploring backup companies. If you're not happy with where you are, have a backup. Always have a backup. Even if you're freaking thrilled with where you are, you should have a backup company. Why? Because you never know.
A hockey team has a backup goalie. A football team has a backup quarterback.
Right. So I'm like, you should always be exploring it because that's normal, to be so into like one company and not be open to seeing, hey, maybe there's a better opportunity. It doesn't even make sense to me. I'm like, just always have a backup unless you are legitimately, not at all interested. I get that, but you should always be interested. Look at what happened with me. I am the perfect example of having a backup would have been really smart. I would never have predicted that the number one office in the world with 300 agents, I legitimately was close to my owner of the company, and I literally went out to dinner and drinks with the owner a week before. The whole time he was selling the company to our competitor. So had we all 300 agents didn't have a backup company to go to. So overnight we were sold. As human beings we were sold. So a backup would have been smart.
To that point, our friend Shaw, he introduced me to his financial advisor, and I was completely happy with mine. Yet I think in every aspect, whether it's insurance, whether it's accounting, like you should be working on relationships because relationships take time. So why you don't have a backup? Besides my wife, I got a backup plan for everything.
I was going to actually, as a joke, I was going to say, well, yeah, you should have your spouses too. I'm only kidding about that. But do I think, having a backup is important? Doing the move during COVID, I don't believe is the right thing to do for only one reason. I'm big on marketing as far as when you leave a company. I think it's really awesome to be like, yeah. And I would be a little concerned right now, a few things. I would be concerned that brokerages right now, they're doing the best that they can. And they've got a lot of balls being juggled, and I think that there's a lot of false promises being made. So I'm kind of like, you know what? It's a good time to just sit back and kind of just go, okay, I'm going to evaluate. It's okay to explore other companies, but I think you're not able to market it.
Two more thoughts on that. One, if there's a problem in your company, like you're not able to get paid because the systems aren't there or something like that, if there's a true problem that you need to move from, that's a different conversation. Then the other thing is I have a few people joining right now. They feel they actually have time to get their marketing and everything else in order. So it was actually accelerated their move because they've got a little less time or a little more time than what they would have, 90 days ago.
Yeah, and that's a possibility for some people too. The biggest thing to remember through this, guys, is that, listen, if for some reason you're not happy because your leadership shit the bed during COVID, I'm going to be very honest with you. Not many people knew that this was going to happen. So you kind of have to remember, yeah, like the only thing I don't want to hear is don't get upset over your leadership, because at the end of the day, they didn't know what the hell was going on. They're doing the best that they can. So you know what? Everything I always say is start with a conversation, have a good backup, and start, this might be that moment where you start to look around and go, maybe I should have a little bit of backup. Maybe like my accountant, there's a great example. My accountant legitimately shit the bed in the last 9 weeks, like literally. It's been terrible. Like that, it was a really bad experience with my accountant. I really felt my accountant just disappeared, didn't have any advice, took forever to get back to me. Like this is not a good experience as a business owner. What we pay our accountant, he just disappeared, and so that has caused me to say, yeah, I should have had a backup person. I didn't, but now I'm very aware of it. So how do I choose to proceed? Going to be very different. I'm pretty sure at this point I'm not going to keep my accountant. He's not on this call. I don't have anything to worry about. But I don't, for what I pay this individual, it is a lot of money. And
even
I
if it was, you'd say it to their face. That's one thing I love about the two of us is we're not afraid to have conversations, and we don't have to be right. We want to know if we're wrong. Like if I'm going to say it, I'll say it to your face.
Yeah, I have a filter, but I'm past the point. You know what? I've just been through way too much. I'm past the point of really caring. If somebody doesn't like my opinion or doesn't like my advice, everybody knows you have a brain of your own. You can come to your own conclusion. It's a personal opinion most of this time.
Marianne, one last thing to that point, when I left the prior company, my father-in-law said to me, he goes, Hank, if a third of the people hate you, a third of the people love you, and a third of the people are indifferent, that's the perfect place to be, because if everybody loves you, you're not doing anything. If everybody hates you, something to be concerned about. Yet the reality is you don't want everybody in yes ma'ams or
God, no. Why would you want that? The other thing you have to remember, that's a great point, Hank, and the other thing you guys have to remember too is that it's not people, it's leadership. Okay, so leadership is what attracts me to companies. Leadership is what keeps me at companies. Leadership has been the engagement of every decision I've ever made, and I've always been clear about this, is that when I am excited about leaders, I want to follow them. So you know what? It's a great time to be observing where the leaders, who's leaning in, who's got the best, who speaks your language. What a great time to observe. I think it's actually a really good time to observe. And men, we're seeing a ton of leaders, which is exciting. But again, guys, it's a personal opinion whether or not you should or shouldn't. But at the end of the day, to have only one company and never consider a backup company, to me, that's a little odd. So you want to kind of, just like I have a great assistant, but you know what? I got a backup. I got at least 3 backups. So if anything doesn't go right, we're going the other way. Okay, social media. This is coming in a lot. There's been so much massive shaming happening. So here's the thing. It's been 9 weeks. Are we okay, in your opinion, to start celebrating our wins and our successes and start getting out there and going, hey, we're freaking awesome. We're number one. What do you think?
I think it takes emotional intelligence, and at the end of the day, if we're providing value and we're helping people, you got to provide for your family, and if you have emotional intelligence, I mean, you know what's appropriate and what's not. Yet at the end of the day, you got to take care of your family, and I think you do need to wave your flag and educate people, because there's people out there that need you, and I wouldn't be ashamed for taking care of your family. Now don't be stupid. And if I think, why wouldn't you? That's what I'm having a tough time understanding.
Because people are shaming, Hank, because other realtors are going, and even people are going, oh, it's nice, so you made a lot of money and I just lost my house, or I'm unemployed now. That's kind of what we're hearing.
Here's the thing is, what gives people the ability to drive by the homeless man and not stop? There's always tragedies going on, and this just happens to be affecting everybody. And I think you'd be tactful and you'd be tasteful. And like right now, my family I love the fact that we are slowing down. I'm not dismissive of the reality of what's going on. And I think that's the important part is don't be dismissive of what's going on. However, at the end of the day, like, help people.
Yep, 100%. And the other thing, thing you're missing, guys, is that you're going to, okay, like Hank said, EQ is really important. Your emotional intelligence has to be in there. If there's an announcement in your city that they just closed down the biggest factory or the biggest plant and all that stuff, totally not appropriate. Like, that's not appropriate. You got to pull that down, because at the end of the day, you need to just pause on it and maybe give it a week, because that's the kind of stuff that we're referring to, is that, not everybody, you got to kind of have that awareness. So don't say, oh, I don't watch the news, so I didn't know. No, you got to know, because marketing is really affected that way, and you got to be aware of what's happening in your community, in your society, in order for you to do that. Because I personally would look at that and be like, hey, wait a second, we just announced 20,000 job losses, and you just put on Facebook that you're number one team in the entire city. Bad timing. Okay, so like, there was a leader, and I'm not going to say who it is, but I used to adore this leader, like, absolutely. When he was in a leadership position, I loved this guy. And it was about 4 weeks ago, maybe 5 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, and I was sitting there looking, and he posted a post, and he said, I don't know what you guys are doing with your time, and it was a video, and he says, but I'll tell you, I'm walking, and I'm taking this extra time to reflect and meditate and blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, he's got a picture of his effing private jet behind him, and I'm going, wait a second, dude. You're not in touch with what's actually happening if you're telling people that they should be walking around meditating. Get your head in gear. There are people fighting to save companies, their lives. Like, totally wrong timing, and totally wrong message. So it's about that whole good balance. But I'm with Hank on it. The public right now is okay with hearing things. They're great with hearing things. They're happy with hearing things, and they're actually we give them a little bit of a sense of normalcy. So to be honest with you, lean into it. If you're crushing the sales, lean into it then. Go into it and just be like, fuck it. You know what? I did really great, because now the public is sending messages going, by the way, you're giving me hope. You're re-engaging. Remember one thing about real estate sales, guys. If the consumer feels, it's the consumer's perception that drives our market. That's what drives our market. So if the consumer feels that we're all drowning and we're dying and nothing good is happening, then guess what? Their confidence goes down. Our market stops. It's not a good thing. So those agents, if you're one of those agents who are beating people up because they're like, oh shit, they're posting that they just became number one, again, that's not a bad thing that they're doing that. Consumers feel like, oh, the market is still alive. I feel comfortable with it. Clarity gives a little bit of comfort, allows the consumer to feel confidence, allows them to move forward with their plans. If we all just disappeared and didn't post anything, the consumer would be terrified. They would be listening to the media only, and the media is definitely not about good news, and they would go into hiding. So I think they're hurting the market if they don't. What's your favorite technology, Hank, that you're seeing in the real estate market right now?
Well, I loved Zoom before used to be the best kept secret.
Yep.
My favorite technology is Facebook, and here's why. You can message people, then it gets people in the algorithms, and it gives you the track, and it allows you to stay in front of them. So I know it sounds cliche, yet I move everybody to Facebook because of the algorithms and the power of it. Mm-hmm. And I built my whole coaching company off of it, 100%. Yep.
I love that. And honestly, guys, it is good. I'm like, I'm moving over to Cisco and other things like that. But I'll be honest with you, there's some kick-ass technology that's existing out there. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I think where I've come in right now is the companies that I'm seeing for the virtual tours. If you're looking at, all the really cool ones that are existing out there, and I know everybody loves, different technologies, but when you know what Matterport can actually really do, I have to be honest with you, I'm jiving on it. I'm loving it. I'm like, I used Matterport at the entry level, but now I'm just kind of like the floor plans, the, Matter Pack, guided tours now, like Matter tags on everything, which is like amazing. Okay. To highlight, like, I love Matterport. I'm just going to be honest. I think it's just a beautiful, high quality, movement. But as far as technology goes, beyond Zoom, I'm telling you, Matterport is just beautiful, but in the whole capacity of Matterport. And I'm seeing all these little subsidiary companies come up that are super cool, and I love that stuff, so it's really good. And we're also seeing, guys, We're seeing like the new stuff on Instagram and Facebook. Holy shit! Like you can't keep up with it. What do you think? Yeah.
To that point, just one last thing is, oftentimes when I hear people asking about question or technology, they're trying to avoid the work. So before you ask about technology, are you doing the work?
Yes. And what do you mean by doing the work? Because I know what you mean by that, but people on this call might not know.
Well, so again, let's look at the activities for the last 30 days. And if you haven't done the activities to give you a chance to even get in shape, it's like I was talking with a client this morning. He's like, Hank, I'm just getting frustrated. I was like, well, you've done Ironmans. If you look at the equivalent of work that you've done in your business and compared it to an Ironman, would you be prepared to race? And he goes, well, no. I was like, well, then what the fuck are we talking about? Like, you haven't even given yourselves a chance. So let's stop talking about all this other stuff. Get to work.
Yeah, that's it, right? Like, come on. It's funny because people can get into the rabbit hole. They can get into that technology rabbit hole too.
They want the simple button. There's no fucking simple button. Do the work.
And stop everything else. And like, it's true. And you don't need the sexiest technology, guys, because I'm telling you, 90 days of revenue. Yeah, like get on the phone, man. This is not the time to be fucking around with technology. Go. I'm hearing a lot of people say, I'm going to invest in this company or that company, or I need to hire this person. Listen, at this point, just make money. That's really some of the best advice. Okay, what do you think the future of real estate looks like? Do you think and so guys, just to elaborate on this question, we got tons of questions that came in to say, look, you know what, do you think that the future is going to be, they predicted before that it was going to be all teams and the single agent was going to die. Do you think that's going to stay now? Do you think that we're moving into something, a hybrid? What do you think?
As long as real estate is complicated or needed yet, what I think is going to happen is Amazon's going to come in and they can eliminate the buyer and seller from communicating. So much like a car dealership. And I think what will happen as soon as the consumers can be separated and Amazon can eat the 6% on the front end and make it on all the other services. So the reality is if we get another 5 years out of the current model, I'll be surprised. And everything that's going on with COVID right now, I think it makes us that much more replaceable. I just saw that Showing Time is now providing showing assistance. And so I believe that we're getting even more closer to not needing not needing us at the level that we are. And that's just my 2 cents, but I've been preparing for that for a while. So
super interesting perspective. So then what would happen with the agent?
Well, I think there's always going to be a need for the complicated scenarios. However, I mean, if you look at Amazon, look at all the money that can be made around a real estate transaction, especially when you have that data. And could they suffocate us out, where they give fair prices for homes, and then make that 6% up in other areas? Well, all day long. So I think the agent. I mean, look at how much money some agents make, Marianne. I mean, we've gotten a little. What's the word I'm looking for? We've gotten a little fat for how hard some people have had to work for making
I'm not going to lie. That is true.
And I mean, I'm getting ready to sell my lake house right now, and I mean, does that agent really deserve $18,000 versus a $60,000 house? I just think our business model is flawed, and I think it's going to get exposed as soon as you can separate the buyer and seller.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And those of you who are from Canada on this call, don't worry. We're always the last. So if it's 5 years in the States, we're about 50 years of that happening in Canada. Nobody comes after Canada because it's just so complicated. We're so governed and regulated and all of the above that, trust me, it'll be locked in courts and paperwork. And we just, come on, look at some of the stuff that we've got now. So we're about 50 years away in Canada, 5 years in the States from that happening. Go for it.
Look at it real quick. When you can, I mean, in Michigan, it takes 40 hours in the Pulse to get a license. I mean, it's embarrassing on what the level of entry is. And and one thing I love about you guys in Canada is it actually takes some work to get a license.
It takes almost a year now. It's like, it's not easy anymore. And you know what? I'm very happy about that. So hopefully that doesn't change. So, it's very difficult to get your license now in Canada, and they're making it more and more difficult to get broker's license. So all these good things that I think are happening in Canada, which will make it very hard. By the way, that is one of the ways that if you're American, which a lot of you are, and you're listening to this, make your licensing requirements, like I keep listening to, we talk about, our previous companies and talk about Gary Keller, or we talk about Glenn Sanford or whatever. If we're looking at all these big company leaders, the number one way to beat them is go and start petitioning that it's harder to get your licenses in your districts. That's the way to beat this. I don't understand. I keep listening to the bashing of all these companies and these models. I'm going, take one lesson from Canada. Make it extremely difficult to get your real estate license, and you will have very little of those Amazons trying to come after us because it's going to be too hard to fill the spots. So,
great point.
It's an amazing point that, honestly, Gary Keller needs to hear that one, because at the end of the day, you guys want to fight Amazon or Zillows, go to your local boards, state by state, and start going, listen, here's what we need to do. We need to tighten up our licensing requirements. It is far too easy, and we see it in Canada. We go, guys, it is far too easy to get your real estate license in the States, and that is why the competitors can come in, those weird companies, and they can steal your market share. So to me, that's the easiest solution that could fight all of it. Okay, so here's an interesting question. I love this question. It's the last question that I had on the thing, and I think it's a really interesting one. If you were well, first thing, I'll ask you the easy one. Advice for the next 8 months for an agent. There's 8 months left of the year. What's your advice?
Well, I'm assuming you're playing chess, and I would get as much cash on hand as possible. Mm-hmm. I do believe that we got a second wave coming. I truly believe that come this fall, we're going to get hit again. Mm-hmm. And so I would double down and work your ass off. And if we're wrong, great, but right now is not the time to sit back, so get lean. I'm selling some assets and getting cash on hand. I was already preparing for an election year, so I saw the question, what would you tell your clients different? I mean, I don't know if you watch politics in the States yet.
Oh, yeah, we love it.
Historically, election years are shit shows, and I mean, in the current political environment, I've been preparing my clients for a shit show in an election year, so we have already gotten cash heavy, and so most of my clients are sitting in a pretty good spot because we're planning on a shit show.
I like that. Good. So planning on a shit show, so liquidating some assets, getting prepared for it. I think I like that. I think where my head comes in is this is where Hank and I are a little bit, not too different, but a little bit different. I am more of the throw it all in, balls to the walls. I'm like, we got 90 days. My thought process is this. We got 90 days to crush the living shit out of revenue right now and build our companies and really take them to the next level. Okay, and that's the truth, is that I can't predict the future, but you can look at the patterns and you can look at them and go, okay, chances, a great thing that somebody said on one of the calls we did was, you know what, this happened to us now, and we didn't know. None of us had any warning. We didn't have any clues to it. We literally were just handed a shit show, and we dealt with it the best we could. If you think it's coming back, which I believe it should be, okay, at the last quarter of the year, unless some miracle happens, and again, I'm not an epidemiologist, so I don't know, but here's the thing. If it is coming back and you're not prepared for it and you haven't worked your ass off in the next 90 days, then that's on you. Okay, you have two choices. It happened to us the first time right now, but if it happens again, which they're telling us is highly likely, and we haven't done the work for the next 90 days, built that revenue stream up, built some systems in place that can carry us through, if it happens again, that's 100% on you guys. You didn't, you can only learn a lesson once before you have to say, okay, let's take this seriously. So my point is, stop training, meaning stop wasting time learning things. Go and find clients, as many clients as you possibly can. If it requires you to be working 60, 70, 80 hours a week, double your ass down. And really, because it's also a great opportunity, because if a lot of people aren't going to be prepared and this happens again, we're going to see a drop in realtors. And at the end of the day, that's not going to be a good thing. And I think getting the revenue over the next 90 days is critical. I wouldn't do anything other than 90 days of finding as many clients as you possibly can. And I say 90 days. By the way, somebody asked me the other day, they said, why do you keep saying 90 days? I'm saying 90 days because the money is going to run out. it's going to be gone. So the minute that money runs out, remember what I said earlier on this call, consumer confidence drops. Okay, when the reality hits, consumer confidence will likely drop in 90 days. So
Good news
make
is
sure.
skill set's going to matter again.
Again, yeah. How so, though, Hank?
Well, I think some agents have struggled because it was order taking and how fast can we get this in, and I mean, I remember back when we were holding properties for nine months, and so I mean, I didn't wish for any of this, yet I think skill set will matter at a whole different level than what it has for the last 3 or 4 years across North America.
It totally will. It totally will. And by the way, you guys know Hank's from EXP, so really cool. Really cool to see how, like, has that helped you at all, having that virtual world? I'm just kind of curious because a lot of people did ask that. They're like, does EXP's virtual world, did it make you better prepared or not?
Well, yeah, because not a lot has changed because a lot of us, here's the biggest thing is if Mary's home with her son, we have backups, so we're still getting paid. We're still moving paperwork through. Like, we haven't seen the hiccup because our infrastructure was set up where we weren't dependent on people going into the office. And so, I mean, the other thing is what really made a difference was this morning I had a nice check deposit in my bank account that was larger than any team I ever ran on a monthly basis.
See, that's amazing. See, isn't that great? I mean, that's a great business model. So that's added revenue streams, right?
Oh, I mean, I got 530 agents that I get paid on, and you show me a team model that's better than my team model, because I'd love to see it, yet I guarantee I'm more profitable with less work.
Isn't that amazing? See, and that's where I think the future of real estate's going, is I think, agents really have to start looking and going, where's my multiple revenue streams to protect me? Again, remember what I said, is that this happened the first time to us. When you look around you and you go, okay, if it happens again, what do you need to do?
In
right?
Marianne, I mean, I got kicked in the teeth in '08 and went bankrupt and through all that. So I've been preparing for this for the last 10 years, not knowing where it's coming. So, I mean, I have 7 and 9 different income streams. So when everything happened, I just changed the dials a little bit. And plus, I'm also sitting on, 6 figures in cash. I don't carry much debt. So, like, when everybody else was making choices to, live lifestyle and all these other things, I've been squirreling away. So there's no panic because I've already gone through getting my teeth kicked in, that I was prepared. And some of you aren't prepared. Be prepared next time. Stop spending so much fucking money. Like, know your P&L, know your taxes, and grow up and be an adult and pay attention to your goddamn numbers.
It's totally, and what Hank says is true. Because you know what? Even like Hootsuite, there's a great example. I love Hootsuite, but it's $500 US, which means it's like 50,000 Canadian. So anyway, long story short, I can't stop laughing about that. It's totally true. Our dollar sucks balls. But anyway, long story short is that Hootsuite is like $500 American dollars. I was sitting there, I was going, I don't believe in cutting costs of things that have a solid return, but I cannot for the life of me figure out, like, Hootsuite is a luxury that I don't need. I don't need Hootsuite. It's not that I need to cut the cost. It's just I'm looking at everything and going, what gives me a return? Somebody asked me, I have 5 coaches, and somebody said, did I let any of my own personal coaches go? And I'm going to be honest with you, hell no. I'm a big believer. I saw this happen with a company recently where everybody was on a site, okay, and they all started talking about cutting costs and and everybody was dropping everything that made the money. And I went, are you freaking crazy? Take a look.
Right.
I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? How are you that crazy? You don't cut the things that help keep you accountable and in production, and like that is absolutely crazy. You cut the shitty audiobook things that you pay for because that ain't making you money. You cut the Hootsuite, which is just really an automated $500 a year system that you can take a pause from. Like, you know what? That's the shit you do. It's not good. The things that are accountable for a return, you never let go of. If you have a personal trainer and your mental health is important to you and you're exercising and that personal trainer is help keeping you accountable, that is not an expense. That is literally keeping you alive. So, no, don't cut that shit. Keep it in your system. Last bit of advice for anybody on this phone call that if you have to let the words go out because we got to wrap this show up, what's your last piece of advice?
be kind.
I love it. I
mean,
love that.
The reality is mental health is real. And my wife and I, we've been through years of therapy. We are very strong-minded, and people are struggling. So don't be a dick, and understand that it's okay not to be okay. Yet sometimes you have to pretend your life's not what it is, and not make more problems by not doing what you need to do. Yet if you need help, raise your hand.
I love
and
it.
it doesn't make you less than. Get through this, and it'll be okay.
You'll be okay, and that's the thing. Here's my best piece of advice. Don't worry about anything other than the next 90 days. Okay? Just literally crush it. Every single day, no matter how nice the weather is, no matter what's happening, crush the shit out of it. Okay? So 90 days of pure fucking effort. Pardon me, Hank?
One last thing. Protect your energy. Yeah. Energy is everything.
Yes.
And so if that means drinking less, whatever it is, protect your energy. Because energy is more important than it's probably ever been.
I could not agree more. Keep your stress level down, keep your energy high, and remember, don't get stressed about this. There's lots of people helping you. We're collaborating together today to bring you that help. So guys, keep yourself focused. Hank, thank you so much. We're going to be sending this call out to everybody. This is awesome advice. I would love to have you back in a few weeks and kind of recap and go, all right, how are we all doing? So I just want to appreciate you giving your time today. I know you're busy, and I absolutely love you, buddy, and I totally thank you very much for sharing some of this advice. I'm getting text messages already just going, it was good. We're authentic, buddy. How's that?
Love you too, friend. Always here. Look forward to next time.
You got it. Okay, everybody, signing off. Have a good Memorial weekend. Talk to you guys later. Bye, Hank.
Bye.